Hi, Tim Alden here. We're going to do the next pattern in the series of our latest patterns for these teardrop earring blanks. You get these patterns when you purchase our earring blanks off the website. And so we're going to go ahead and wet this up and get started. And we'll go ahead and trace this on. Just have packing tape on here. That way the water doesn't mess with our pattern. I'm just going to do the interior lines here, and then I'm going to cut the border with our easy border tool and just put it on there for drawing purposes, just kind of get an idea where that's going to go. And we're going to get a little more consistency out of our border cutter here. Just make sure that's where we want it. And so tip it back. And tight radiuses like this, I usually just kind of set my hand up and turn the work underneath the tool. And on these corners, if you have a little spot where it might not be the smoothest curve, you can just come over it with a swivel knife. Just kind of massage that out a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and cut this flower center. And then our petals. It's a Berry King 1/4 inch thin blade swivel knife, or 3/8 barrel that we sell on the website. Now that we got our swivel knife done, go ahead and bevel this out. We're going to use our number 2 checkered beveler, and we use typically number 1, number 2, and a number 3 for the big straight stretches. But the number 2 I'd probably use more than I use any other beveler. And on our flat spot of our beveler towards the element that we are going to lift up. So any element, you want that flat part of the tool aiming towards it, and it lifts it out of the leather. This is a real fun pattern for a beginner because there's not a lot of intricate lines. Just kind of a good pattern to practice and just smooth out your beveling, smooth out your swivel knife work. Okay, now that our bevel work's pretty much done, you can come back and lift these points up a little bit that we beveled over. Just make sure they're good and crisp. Tip your beveler forward a little bit so you don't overlap that dominant petal there. So now we're going to do some shading on this. We're going to take our vertical lined thumbprint. It's number 1 Berry King. And we're just going to shade from the flower center out. And so we don't want to go all the way across there. We want a valley in that petal that gives it depth. So I'm just going to kind of lighten up when I get to the edges, and we can run this out. The further out you run it, the flatter you need that tool. I start out tip back pretty good. We get some dark burnish color there, and then we want those lines radiating out. Now we got that shaded. We're going to take our smooth #1 thumbprint, and we've actually taken this to 85 grit sandpaper and just roughed it up a little bit. It's going to create more of a burnish color, and I like it a little bit more. It'll hold antique a little bit better than a very smooth thumbprint. And we just kind of use this at the tips. We just kind of tip it to the side. You can run it down a little bit if you want it to go a little further. It's just going to create some nice color there and depth to our flower. So once we've gotten that done, we're going to come back with our cedar. It's a #1 lined cedar from Berry King. And he also does a smooth cedar. I like the lined cedar. So we're going to kind of go right along this line that we've beveled. And I usually tip this to the outside. It kind of creates some depth to this. We just kind of want to go slow and get as many of those little seeds in there as possible. So now that we've gotten that, we're going to come with our #2 lined veiner. Create some depth here in our petals. That would be little Miss Aveline talking in the background. Our videographer's child, my niece. Got a few marks on here from my fingernails. So it's a good time to mention, if you have long fingernails, you want to trim those before doing much floral carving. We can rub all this out, but it's something to consider. Now that we've done that, I'm going to go ahead and background behind these petals. This is a #35 5-seed bar grounder from Berry King. And just going to kind of go with that angle from the outside petal, kind of rotate it forward. Same thing over here. There we have that, and we'll come back and do some deco cuts with our swivel knife. So when I do the deco cuts, I like to start with the center of the petal, and I'll start in deep on these style of flowers, and then I'll just taper off. They're not very big petals, so we're probably just going to get 3 here, and we want to shorten them when we go to the outside. I'm going to cross hatch this, start out all the way across, and then we're just going to taper off shorter and shorter, and we're going to center that on that center cut. And a lot of times I'll just do a little cut, these shading lines. A mirror of what's already there. And there we are. You can color this with Sharpie markers, I would recommend. You can watch our diamond earring pattern video, and it shows you how to color these sunflowers. Pretty easy. Just get the variety pack of Sharpie markers and then antique it, and it looks really cool. Well, thanks for stopping by. Hope you like this sunflower pattern for our teardrop earring blanks. We'll see you next time. We're gonna carve this little floral design, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it.